Stress. Stress has been the biggest threat to a student's academic and personal life since the implementation of college-focused courses. Anxiety, brought upon by this stress, cripples the mind and the will of a teenager experiencing it. This stress, caused by the government's input of rigorous academic coursework, was only augmented by their misunderstood neglect. Tough scholarly expectations were a major cause of teen anxiety. Among others were difficult home life situations as divorce rates increased, and the emergence of an unfamiliar technological society. Between the 90s and early thousands, there was a significant rise in anxiety levels among teens. This can be attributed to an increase in A-level courses and sudden pressure placed upon standardized tests. Along with demanding academic standards, teenagers were also dealing with unsteady parental ties. Divorce rates had been rising since the 70s and spiked in 1994 with 14.2 divorces every 1,000 married couples. Hectic home lives were a major deterrent of students' mental stability. The effects seen by these levels of stress include alcohol abuse, drugs, depression, and, unfortunately, suicide. Many teens turned to alcohol and drugs to escape from their burdened lives, while others took darker paths. Suicide rates increased from 12 per 100,000 inhabitants to 18 per 100,000 inhabitants from 1975 to 1990. The main causes of these suicides being depression and other anxiety-related disorders. Behavior issues rose from 7% in 1974 to 15% in 1999. With teen stress reaching excessive heights, writers coined this time period the Age of Anxiety. It was so severe that depression was projected to rise even over the next decade. Unfortunately, teenagers suffering from mental illnesses were often neglected due to the lack of understanding on the government's part. The youth were, more or less, locked up instead of being given the rehabilitation that they desperately needed. Often they were placed with others who shared their behavior and their mental issues, even though experts advised against such an environment. Due to the fact that there was not enough space or help for everyone, mental rehabilitation centers had to place teenagers with other struggling adolescents. The government's attempts at salvaging the mental health of the youth can be seen in the following video clip.
In fact, in talking to many young people around the country, I found that so many of them would not come forward to seek treatment simply because of the stigma and the shame associated with it. That's an attitude. That's something that all of us can change, and I think we're committed to doing that. Now, last year, during the White House conference on mental health, President Clinton and I challenged the nation to tackle that fear and that shame that's associated with mental health issues. And the response has been absolutely overwhelming and very positive and very heartwarming and very, very hopeful. And today I am very pleased to announce the creation of the National Mental Health Awareness Campaign. This nonpartisan venture will work to improve America's understanding of mental health and give hope and information to all the people who need it, the millions and millions of people in this country who are looking for that kind of information. This campaign will begin its work by focusing on young people. And that is why I'm pleased to announce that working with the American Psychological Association and the National Mental Health Awareness Campaign and MTV, they are launching today a nationwide ad campaign. These ads will encourage young people to seek help for themselves or for their friends who need it. They, the young people, know who needs help, and they simply need help to get the information and to know where to go.
Several states by this time had moved to shut down adolescent units in mental institutions, forcing teens into foster care instead of receiving professional help. But as time went on, the government began to understand where they had failed. By the end of the 20th century, organizations like DARE in 1983 were fighting with full effort against teen substance abuse through educational programs and advertisements. However, these were not the only techniques employed by the government and organizations. Health reforms began to emerge, such as the Mental Health Parity Act of 1996, which was the first act to bring more equity to health insurance coverage of those afflicted. Mental Health America helped develop the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. This helped protect the mentally ill from discrimination. On top of the numerous acts passed through Congress, there were more surveys released in the early thousands regarding the mental health of teenagers, raising awareness of teen stress level and its effects. These reforms inspired a cultural desire to understand and help those we have neglected. But despite all the acts and reforms, we must wonder if the government's actions and involvements were enough for the future. This question is to be answered by the teenagers themselves. Were we given a brighter future or a darker one?